So in yesterday's class, our concentration was on how we can start inserting the data into your particular tables. But the first criteria on which we were concentrating is, we may have a situation where we want to insert the data into every column of your particular table. Now we want to insert the data into every column of the table. We just declare the table name and we don't need to mention the column names after this. But we have to remember very carefully, every column in the table should be definitely attended with the data value. And those columns will be used exactly the same order in which the table is fundamentally existing. So within your table, how exactly those values are, so those columns are existing, the same data types have to be followed. And another point what we have been seeing is, once we start inserting the data and we start moving down through the process, until we do not commit the data is never permanent. If you can just watch in yesterday's class, I was inserting the second record and I was not doing any commits. And without doing any commits, I closed my session. Therefore, you can just watch here. I'm saying select star from students. Then definitely you can just watch it's having only one single record that was committed. So there's a very clear proof that until we do not commit the data within the table will never become permanent. So commit is a very small command. We have much lot of information to speak about commit later on. But at this level, you just try to understand commit will start committing the changes you have done to your data either by insert or update or delete. One commit is enough for the total number of statements you have executed in that session. Or for each statement that is executed, you can write your own commit. Now that is up to you how exactly you want to implement your commits. Commit with every statement or commit with a number of statements, that's up to you. Be very clear about that. When you think that the changes what you have done should not be stored permanently in the database, then you can always say rollback. So rollback and commit are two simple functions. Be very, very clear about these particular constructs. So they are very simple statements what you can start making use of them. Anyhow, let us not worry about those constructs. Yesterday, one of the questions we had is, if we give the second record or third record also, which is exactly same to the same record that is already existing in my table, our Oracle was not rejecting that. But the basic standard says that Oracle is an RDBMS software. And whenever we say it's an RDBMS software, every RDBMS software should have the intelligence of identifying the duplicated information. And if any information is getting duplicated, it should reject that particular piece of the data. Now, technically, if we don't understand these factors very carefully, we'll just get misunderstood by the implementations. So when Oracle says that I am an RDBMS, Oracle is very clearly saying that my database as an architecture is RDBMS by nature. Means with respect to Oracle's data, it never allows any duplications to take place. But currently this table is created by Oracle or we created it? We created. So within this table, the data what we are keeping is our business data or Oracle's business data? Our business data. Now your business data should be duplicated or should not be duplicated, how Oracle knows. So try to understand one thing. When you are designing your own database, you have to tell Oracle how it should start storing the data and what fundamental principles of RDBMS it has to follow. So, building an RDBMS application is your responsibility. Oracle is an RDBMS is a fact, but Oracle does not have the intelligence of trying to make your application automatically RDBMS by nature. So, how I can make my application RDBMS by nature? That is what we are about to learn throughout the course. If we are learning only SQL, then I don't think we need this much of pain. We are not interested in learning just SQL. We are interested in learning RDBMS oriented SQL. So currently we created students as a table, but I think I was telling you, tables anybody can create, but are we creating entities as tables? In one of the chapters, we'll start understanding how we can design entities as tables. Currently, what we're designing tables, these tables have only one criteria of intelligence. The intelligence these tables will be having is just collect the data as per the process of the statement. They don't have any intelligence to understand whether the data is getting duplicated or it's not getting duplicated. All that intelligence we have to provide that, and in few chapters we'll look into those factors. So, your table is containing duplicated data. It means that your table is not designed as per the standards of RDBMS. So a table cannot be directly to the standards of RDBMS. It is something you have to plan, analyze, and you have to do it. And how to plan, analyze, and make the tables to become RDBMS oriented, one chapter will try to tell us in near future. Let us not worry about till then. Now, before I go to my next level of implementations, I just wanted to catch few fundamental mistakes what we could be doing whenever we are working with the criteria of these statements. Now, in this particular statement, whenever we are working, whenever we are basically trying to work with this insert statement, there are a few more things I just want you to concentrate. Now, that is one record what we are fundamentally inserting, no doubt about it. Now, my original table is containing how many number of columns? 8 columns. Now, in this insert statement, after the table name, we did not mention any column names. So, how many values we should give? 8 values. So, I think we are having 8 values definitely here. Now, let us just check by giving one extra value, what will be the reaction of my insert statement now. I am giving the value as suppose say like sample, where this column is definitely not existing within my table. I am giving one value more than the actual structure of my table. Now you just watch here, these are very common errors you will be encountering, and if you don't have clarity on the process of the error, you will always get into confusion. I am giving some data which is beyond the size of my actual table, that immediately tells you too many values. So whenever you are getting too many values error, you should always understand that you are trying to design one insert statement that is having number of values beyond the actual structure of the table or beyond the actual structure that is described by your insert. Be very clear about that. Are you getting it? There are 2 reasons here. I wanted to remember these 2 reasons very effectively. This error gets projected when we are inserting the data into the table by providing the values which are more than the actual structure of the table or than the actual number of columns that are declared in the insert statement. So always keep this in your mind. This error comes in 2 situations. One, either you are giving the values which are beyond the size of your table, or you are giving the values which are beyond the number of columns declared within your particular insert statement. And you should always remember one thing, Oracle's errors are standardized, and technically every error has one standard error number. Be very clear about that. Every error has one standard error number. And every error has certain amount of message. Now these error numbers and messages are absolutely standardized by Oracle. So the point what you should always try to recognize is, if you are keeping experience in your resume, how many error numbers, situations and messages you remember before you are going into your interview rooms is very, very important. When you are sitting in interview rooms and you keep your experience, he definitely asks you, suddenly like he says, what is minus 913 error in Oracle? You should be in a position to say that. Be very, very clear about that. Or he will just say like, when you will get the message from Oracle for too many values, can you just tell me? You should explain the situation. How many error numbers you remember depends on how many times you do an error and you start correcting it. That's what I'm saying. If you follow the examples that are given in your books, you don't get any errors, because we test the code and we give it to you. So you are just typing that code as it is. You are psychologically feeling that you are not doing any mistakes. But actually, you cannot do any mistakes because the code has no mistakes which has been already pre-tested. Good practice is a practice where you get some error and then you understand that error and you start correcting that error. And how many error numbers you remember, that's up to you. And I'm making it very clear for the students who are keeping experience in your resume. Not only interview rooms, after you get into your job, you have something called as client interview. When you're sitting in front of the client for the sake of interview, you'll be having technical rounds with the client. So technical rounds are nothing but the production side technical team that will be speaking with you. They will definitely ask you, if this particular error is coming, can you tell me what is the reason and how you will handle that error? Especially for L2, L3 support projects and L2, L3 support jobs, you'll be getting these kind of questions. So how many error numbers you remember, that's just your concentration. Wherever I'm speaking about errors and I'm defining them and I'm taking care of them, remembering and recollecting and keeping them properly in your mind is your job. The same way, my table is definitely having 8 columns. Now we watch very carefully one more scenario. Here I am declaring 9 values, I am removing the 9th value. Now the structure is going very properly, but just watch here, I am removing one value. Now after this table name, did I declare any column names? No. So when I did not declare any column names, what is the instruction I am giving to my optimizer? I am saying that I will give all the values to all the columns in the same order in which they are existing in the table. Don't forget the points. Now my table is having how many columns? 8. Now I am giving how many values here? 7. So this is a very standard error, not enough values. So whenever you are getting an error called as not enough values, you should definitely understand that you are supplying the number of values less than the actual structure that is existing in the table or actual number of columns that are declared within the insert statement. These are very standard things. Be very clear about it. Especially what happens, I'll tell you. Databases are directly operated by the end users, or they are never operated by the end users directly. Now, they are used directly by the end users, or they never used directly by the end users. They never used by the end users directly. Who will be connecting to the database? End users through front end. So we design some front end screen, and from the front end screen they will connect to my particular database. These front end screens can be developed in which technologies? Any front end supporting technology, which could be Java, which could be PHP, which could be C#, which could be Visual Basic, which could be Oracle's own product like Forms. So whatever is the front end product, let us not worry now. If it is an Oracle product, it's not a problem. Why? Because the product is developed by Oracle, database is also developed by Oracle, so the product can understand the errors of Oracle and can give you meaningful messages. But especially when you're working with Java, what happens now? There is a Java front end form that has been designed. And from the front end, the end user is given a screen where all the items will be available in which he should put the data. But the client may feel that there are some fields where he is not interested to keep the data. And without putting the data into some of the fields, he is submitting the form now. The values will come where now? The values will come where? As parameters to database, and database has to execute the insert statement. Database returns which error? Not enough values. With minus 947, Java cannot understand this error. Because this error is not Java, this error is what? Oracle's. So Oracle stimulates the error, but actual event has taken place by Java. So immediately what happens is Java exception packages will be thrown outside. Even if you are working in the construct of any technology like PHP or C# or Visual Basic, the corresponding language exception will be thrown. Now generally what happens is the Java developer may not get exactly this message. Because it's not the message to Java, it's a message to Oracle's environment, and this message could be stimulated by the exception classes in that particular technology by its own exception handling methods. Here it is only one single line, but when you are getting into your criteria of the Java, a huge amount of exception package could be coming outside, saying that java.lang. And all such kind of things will come. The Java developers may not understand the issue is exactly from where. They will cross-verify the code from their side and they come to conclusion that it's working good. Then they will say that when my program is getting connected to your database, I'm getting this error. Then how many times looking into the issue in the front end, where you may not know front end, but looking into the issue that is arising in the front end, you can understand the problem of your front end developer and try to explain him what is happening from the back end. As a back-end developer, if you say that select is coming with a Java-based exception and that whole package that is getting thrown, and you say that I don't know Java, he says my program is correct. Then you ask him how you know that. What he will do, can you tell me? The Java developer will disconnect the database, and within the front-end form he will put his values and he will submit them into one file, or he will submit them into one particular memory allocation, and the application definitely gives a message that is very perfectly true. But when it is connected to database, he will be getting the error. So he says like, when I am not connecting to database, my form is working perfectly. But the moment I am getting connected to database, I am getting this error. So this is a problem from database. Can you tell me why this is coming? And you just say that, I also don't know. The project will hang over there automatically. You should always remember one thing. You should know how to coordinate with your front-end developers. Front-end developers also should know how to coordinate with the database developers. Now, who will coordinate with whom? That's basically an unwanted discussion. But remember one thing, your Java developer is the senior and you are the junior, and you are unable to handle the situation, even though it is his responsibility also to handle it. Being a senior, he is safe. Being a junior, he will come outside. That's a simple story. Therefore, nobody can protect you when the issue goes out of the control. It all depends on your attitude of participation. Therefore, when your Java developer is saying that whenever I am posting some data, my data is not getting posted. The simple thing he says is, whenever I am posting the data from my front end form, my data is not getting posted. Please see that what is the error. Then you should only tell him one thing. I will look at with respect to the error from my side, that's okay, because my statement is working very perfectly in the back end. Now that same statement I gave you is not working, in the sense there could be some issue. I'll look into it, but please try to find out that you are debugging your code without connecting to my database, putting the data or posting the data into some data file and cross-verify that. Your operational code is working perfectly in the front end, then I will come out from my side. That's first thing. Second thing, he says like, no, I've already done all my tests and I debugged it, but I'm feeling that there's only the issue left over with the database side. Then do you know how to speak with the guy? You may not know that, you may not know front end, but you should know how to speak. So you should know how to query. You should ask him, how many elements are there on your particular form, can you tell me? Whenever he says an element in the front end, that element is mapping to which table, to which column in your back end, can you make that mapping process? These elements, when they are submitting it, can you ask him, in all the situations this is an error, or in certain situations only? He says, no, when I'm giving all the values in my form, the issue is getting completed. But when I'm giving some values and I'm not giving some values, the issue is raising. How many times in a fraction of a second you will come to conclusion that maybe he is missing some values and the database is throwing not enough values. This correlation is very important for people who are keeping your experience, I'm telling you, because don't forget, I think minimum you are saying that you are 3+ years experience in the industry. Now you are not experienced, you and your Amirpet knows about that, but industry is not knowing it, because you are making industry to believe that you are experienced. So when the issue goes out of your control, you cannot tell the industry, sir, my interview mein galti se bola tha ki experience hai. They will kick you out of the companies, be very clear about that. So catch the errors very carefully. Small things, but maybe looking ridiculous, they will keep you in the distress of nightmare whenever you are working in your projects. Classrooms, nothing will happen, and classrooms are 400 times easier than industry, because we can make that kind of effective state here. But once you are into the project, the life is totally different. Be very, very careful. So these errors, whenever they are coming, you should know how to handle your errors. That's why yesterday I told you, definitely I'll not be interested to make you work on any particular fully configured machines. You have to practice only on your machines. When you practice your technology on your machine, when you get the errors, you'll know why they are coming. and you'll start correcting them. So every error has a reason. Every error has a reason. Be careful. So this error is projected when we supply less number of values to the insert statement than the number of columns existing in the table or than the number of columns that are declared in the insert statement. These are very standard compositions. Be very clear about that. So whenever you are getting certain constructional messages, you should always understand. And another point I want to tell you, even though your technologies like your Java or your Visual Basic or PHP or anything may throw exceptions as per their classes, definitely in that exception statements, in that number of lines of exception what it is throwing, somewhere one line will be there with respect to your database driver. If you can catch that line where the database driver based messages are there, in that definitely you can find these lines. That's where exception handling with front-end technologies or any technology is one kind of skill. So when a huge exception is thrown, which is basically some number of lines, no human being will have patience to read line by line and find out the exception. So can you tell me, in a large scale exception text that is thrown to you, how to find out whether this kind of line is there or not? That's where multiple technologies will help you. One of the cheapest I can say is, take that entire text that is thrown, push it into one text editor. Within the text editor you have find and search. Now within that particular find window, type whatever you feel that it could be a message from the Oracle. Suppose you feel that this could be an error of Oracle, so do I have any ORA? Any ORA prefix is definitely that it's an Oracle error. So type that into your find and then start clicking the next button. Then automatically in that entire file where you have copied it, will show you where those ORA messages are there. Every ORA message is a message coming from Oracle server. That's one mechanism. But there are certain clients where you are never allowed to use any third-party text editors. Certain clients will be there. He'll never let you use any kind of third-party softwares other than what he prescribes. Suppose like it's a Linux or Unix environment, you don't have any third-party editors there. You have only VI editor now. And within the VI editor, do you know how to search your particular strings? If suppose you are not interested in VI editor, then how you can, do you know that how to paste this particular text, whatever is available, that's coming from your language into one kind of text file, and use some utilities like a grep command to search the pattern where it is existing in your particular file. That's how, once you get into your job, only a skill will not help you, man. There are multiple other things you should definitely know and keep yourself ready so that you can start working in your projects effectively. See, one thing you should remember, sitting in this market in a classroom, you will always learn one technology, but you will never learn how to implement this technology in your projects. So why like that? You expect subject, we will deliver subject. You are not expecting application and we are not giving you application. Contract is very clear from both the sides. Therefore, these errors and the situation should be known to you at least once when you are trying to work out. That's what I say, how many errors you do, so much you are really developing within your technology. As a beginner, that should be a positive state. And there are other few more things I just want to catch up before I go into my next levels. So these things we can speak immediately at this level, and technically I can definitely say that we cannot catch them at the later stages. Now you just watch here, I am giving my first value as 1235. Now definitely my table is going with 8 columns and I'm having 8 values. Now in the place of this Sampath, I'm just trying to change this value, Mr. Rakesh, just for our convenience. And here it's same Kumar, and maybe this is 85, and this is some 97, and the remaining things let it be as it is now. Now, numbers can be directly declared like this. Do you agree with me? Numbers are directly declared like this, yes or no? Now, just watch carefully. I am keeping this number in single quotes. The moment I kept this number in single quotes, what happened now? Tell me. It became a character. It became a character string. But in my table, what is the data type? Number data type. Can a number data type accept characters? No, because one data type cannot accept another data type values. That's definite, no doubt about it. What we are basically trying to say is absolutely true. According to that consciousness, if we try to execute this statement, then definitely Oracle should reject this particular record. Yes or no? By giving a particular message mismatching the data type. Or it should give me any specific message like invalid data type. Whatever Oracle's internal architecture is saying, let us not worry. But this first column is a number in my actual table, and I'm trying to give a numerical value declared in single quotes. For human being, it's a number, but because we kept in single quotes, for machine it became what? No, character. Characters cannot fit into numbers. That's a fact. But your latest optimizers can have certain intelligence. As per that intelligence is concerned, you can just watch here. Oracle is taking that particular string. Within the string, do we have any alphabets and special characters, or we have only numerical characters? Only numerical. Understands the data type in your table, recognizes the values here, converts that into number internally, and registers it. So, this is one very important point you need to remember. Whenever you are giving this data, even though it is a string, no doubt, but higher versions of databases can have intelligence of implicit conversion of the data. We call this kind of conversion as implicit data type conversion. Latest versions can always have the intelligence of converting certain values automatically into the corresponding data types as declared within your particular table. So here the point what you should always understand is, in this case, the given value by declaration is a string, but the collection of the values are specific to numerical state. Hence, Oracle's optimizer is executing implicit data type conversion upon this data as the state of the values are pure numerical combinations. Okay, it's not compulsory Oracle can do always, but it has that intelligence sometimes. So yes, one of the very important point what you should remember is, all databases may have implicit data type conversion intelligence. But this conversion is possible to the applicable standards in which the data is represented. When implicit conversion is not possible, Oracle raises an exception. Okay, if it is fundamentally not possible, it definitely raises an exception. Be very clear about that. Therefore, don't think that implicit conversions will happen always. So what do you mean? We definitely try to cross-verify that. You just check. Now the same construct you just I'm rolling back this now. I don't want to make this data permanent. So that's how I can cancel my change. Are you catching the point now? Now, the same insert you watch carefully. I'm executing it once again. In the place of this 1, 2, 3, 5, which is kept in single quotes, I'm giving 1, 2, 3, A. A belongs to the numerical family or doesn't belong to the numerical family? Doesn't belong to the numerical family. So conversion is possible or not possible? Not possible. So this is a very clear proof that implicit conversion will not happen always. So it is specific to the conventions what Oracle understands. So if the conversion is technically possible, it does. If it is not possible, then definitely gives you some error message. Minus 1722 invalid number is a very regular and very commonly asked question, I am telling you. Can you tell me the situation when you encountered minus 1722? Quick with your mind, you should say, sir, is an invalid number error that's operating from the database server. For students who are keeping experience, average 50 and up to 150 different kinds of situational error numbers should be at the tip of your tongue. Be very, very clear about that. Sir, how I can know my error numbers and keep them by heart or remember them? Do the errors, correct the errors. That's a simple thing. That's where I say, generally when you're attending labs, what happens, I'll tell you. First thing is, a student who is expecting that by practicing in the institution lab, I'll get advantage. The first disadvantage, I'll tell you, any institute will give you lab for only 1 hour. Banner will say that 24 hours lab. But 24 hours lab not for one single person continuously. 24 hours lab is open. In the 24 hours, 1 hour will be given to you. That is a fundamental point there. Understand the marketing gimmicks of this market. Second thing, absolutely everybody knows that after 9 o'clock in the evening till early morning 9 o'clock, no human being will come to the lab. So definitely it's not 24 hours lab, it's 12 hours lab only, but marketed as 24 hours. You go and ask like night 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I'll come to the lab. Immediately the same institute which cooked the banner will say, Pagal ban gaya kya? So nobody will give you. That's second thing. Third thing, the third disadvantage is, you have to go to your lab exactly by the time when they give you, and imagine that out of a pre-occupancies, at that particular point of time, you don't have actually the mood to practice your technology. But even then, you have to drag yourself with half mind and go to the lab and sit. Without proper concentration, you can never work in logical fields. Third thing, you went into the lab and technologically, the physical architecture on that particular day is not good and the lab is not given to you. The lab is gone. Fourth, you are not practicing your lab for that day at the given time to you. Next day you will come and sit in the class without practicing. So definitely you will never understand. And next day when you go and say that yesterday I did not come to the lab, give me 2 hours. They say like only 1 hour will give you. Who told you not to come yesterday? So yesterday's and today's work you cannot complete in one single day on the third day when you are getting into the lab. Final disadvantage I'll tell you. All the lab is fully configured. Absolutely configured. You don't need to know, you don't need to do anything from your side. You just need to pull the keyboard, type the username, password and start practicing. Never you'll understand how your technology is getting integrated in real time. Because you've never been experimenting on that. Because it's a fully configured system. And finally you get any error. In the lab what happens, I'll tell you. If you get this error in the lab, you'll try to do your job once or twice, and if you're unable to do that, you'll immediately rotate your head 360 degrees, call that lab coordinator who is there. One person will be standing very eagerly, who will call me when? You'll call that guy and say like, Bhai sahab thoda dekh ke batao. Like you, 1,000 people will do the same mistake every day. That person is expert in handling these errors now. He will immediately open the editor, remove this A and keep something else, and he does something, push forward slash, the statement gets executed. He does all that so fast, you'll get fascinated with his whole intelligence now. And you'll be thinking like, iske jaisa मैं कब बनूंगा? Usko job आने के बाद आप lab coordinator बन सकते हो, no problem. I'm not trying to offend the lab coordinators, but what I mean to say is keep your targets very clear. Once you get your habit that somebody will correct my error, never in your life you will start correcting your errors, because you always think that he will do the job for me. In industry we don't have lab coordinators. You are sitting on your personal machine, the advantage, error will come, you have to close it. So if I don't close it, you have to close it. Sir, 24 hours I will try this error, and if I cannot complete this error, tomorrow I'll ask you. I will never tell you, because I am not lab coordinator. Sir, you will never tell us and we cannot complete it. Then what to do? Continue with that error. Because finally if that error comes in industry, will you come back to Amirpet once again? When you have to correct that error in industry, why don't you correct that from now itself? And this error came because you have written the insert statement. When you have written the insert statement and you cannot understand that error, why somebody should tell you? Be very clear from your side. You are learning this technology to see that you are getting expertized. So that patience you should have. One error is taking 2-3 hours also, no problem. Why? Because you'll never spend that 2-3 hours once again when you get into your industry. If you are listening to the class very carefully, 100% you will handle your errors confidently from your side. And definitely now itself I want to tell you, I don't expect any of my students when they get an error, they depend on somebody to make the error to get corrected. Don't do that. Don't do that. You'll never know the damage that's going to happen to you. You'll only understand the damage after you get into your jobs. Be very clear about that. So make a habit of correcting your errors, because that error came because you are doing it. When you know what is the statement, you should know what are the mistakes that can happen when we are writing those statements also. Not even your friend who is there in your room should help you in correcting the errors. Generally people have anxiety. You're practicing your Oracle and you get an error. In everybody's life one friend will be there who is overexcited, we call him as. He'll immediately come and says like, yaar idhar ye ho raha hai, wo ho raha hai. Get up from your chair and slap that guy immediately. He's like, क्यों मारा है? Who told you to touch my error? मेरा दिमाग मैं यूज करूंगा, तेरा दिमाग तू यूज कर ले. और एक बार मैं प्रैक्टिस जब कर रहा हूँ नजदीक आया तो भोग दूंगा. Nobody will come near you, because it's your technology. You have to practice. Therefore, sir, I get one error tomorrow. I'll come and ask you. I'll give you another error and go and practice 2 errors now. Okay. So we are very clear in our contract now. Okay, only professional contract, man. No pampering. No pampering, because finally you have to do your work once you get your job. So understand Oracle's behavior. That's what I said. Don't learn SQL. Understand SQL. If you want to learn SQL, I don't need to talk this much. Already one insert statement perfectly executed is completed. SQL is completed for insert. So everything is your own effort. I will only support. Remember that. So when an error comes, don't get into unwanted pressure. That error is simple. You sit, study, recollect everything what I told you. Listen to the audio again and again. Somewhere you will find that reference. The more you correct your errors, the more you are becoming professionalistic. And when you get into your industry, you will first thing never do errors. Why? You have been practicing by typing your code. So your fingers have become perfect now. Even if some error comes, don't worry, your brain can catch that situation because you used your brain to correct your errors. Everybody will struggle to do the work for 10 hours. You will complete your work in 6 hours, remaining 4 hours you will enjoy. Else, people unwantedly say there is a great pressure in this industry. Nothing, man. Software industry is very pleasure based. We don't work properly and we create pressure unnecessarily. So, follow the guidelines very properly. Certain errors are not straightforward. I wanted to check my last situation. When I am working throughout my course, wantedly I will be doing some errors without your knowledge and I will be correcting them. But this kind of discussion I will never do once again. Be very sure about it. Now, let us keep this data very proper by saying 1, 2, 3, 5 or 6 something, whatever it is. Now watch here. This is a string. Do you agree with me? String has to be kept in 2 single quotes. Now I am removing these 2 single quotes now. Now when I remove these 2 single quotes, this is definitely, you just watch carefully, this is definitely a collection of characters or not? Yes or no? Now when it's a collection of characters and I did not keep 2 single quotes, definitely Oracle should understand that it is what? A string. It is a string. Because there are only few characters there. Yes or no? Now, when number was kept in single quotes, Oracle was doing what? Implicit conversion. When number was kept, total number was kept in single quotes, we were doing some implicit conversion. These are totally characters and I did not keep 2 single quotes. What Oracle should do? Implicit conversion. So Oracle's behavior always will not be the same. That's the thing you should first understand. Therefore, with one previous error, you try to interrelate the next error, you will get confused. Don't do that. Every situation in Oracle is unique by itself. No interrelationships. That can trouble you. Be very clear about it. Therefore, whenever you get an error, that is something new and unique by Oracle's internal architecture. Second, this is a value or this is a column? This is a value. But watch what Oracle says. Column not allowed here. This is the biggest confusion for a student. For beginners, this is the biggest confusion. So I declared actually a value, but it is saying that column not allowed. Understand Oracle's optimizer. According to Oracle's optimizer, when a collection of characters are there and they are not kept into single quotes, it's a system of exceptions is designed in such a way that it is an improper place for column to be declared. This is a place for actually what? Values. When you are declaring something as a collection of characters which are not kept into single quotes, it is thinking that you are declaring a column in the position of the value. That's how it is understanding. Therefore, according to Oracle, you have to tune your brain. According to your brain, Oracle will never get tuned. First understand this. So by the time you complete your course, your attitude should be as per the Oracle's architecture. You cannot expect Oracle's architecture to change as per your attitude. So that's where your technological difference arises. Be very, very careful about this. Therefore, all errors are not straightforward. So whenever you start writing one insert statement can always go with its own defined state of exceptions. But these exceptions you should have clarity first of all with respect to the situation and the scenario what you have been driving through that particular circumstance in which you have been executing it. Now let us go to the next level. What is the guarantee that within your table always you want to give the data for all the columns in the table? Sir, why I cannot give my data for all the columns in my table? One simple question I have now. Okay, every student should have a student ID or may have a student ID? Should have. Every student should have a student's first name or may have a first name? Should have a first name. Every student should have a last name or may have a last name? May have a last name. Means certain fields are mandatory and certain fields are optional. So whenever I am working in my insert statement, there can be a situation where I want to insert the data only into the required columns. I want to insert the data only into the required columns. Now when I want to insert my data into my table only into required columns, which columns you want to insert, how Oracle knows. Therefore, after the table name, we have to declare the column names. So after that table name, if I am declaring my column names, I am very clearly telling my Oracle that in this table, for these columns, I want to give the data. There may be many other columns in the table, but you are telling your Oracle that for those columns I am not interested, but for these columns I am interested to give the data. That's the first point. Second point, when you are declaring these columns should be available in the table by declaration, but need not be in the same order by declaration. Are you catching the point now? These columns, what you have declared here, should be available in the table, but they should be in the same order in the table is not a rule. So when you declare columns, you can declare your columns according to your convenience of the order, what you feel, rather than from the table side. That's the second thing. Third, whenever you are giving these values, when you give these values, you should definitely give the values exactly to the same number of columns what you declared there. How many columns I declared there? 5. I should give values exactly 5 values. Anything less, not enough values. Anything more, too many values. Those errors are standardized. Last thing you should always remember is, the first column is which data type? Number. So we have to give only the number into it. The second column is which data type? Character. So you have to provide a value that is character by nature. So these values have to follow the order and the data type by declaration in the insert statement, not the order and the data type declared as per the table strictly. For first time beginner, these all rules what you have to remember are important. When for the students who have already done your Oracle previously, now what I am trying to say is not new to you, but you have to definitely keep these points in your mind, because my first level concentration will be on students who are learning Oracle for the first time. So I have idea on all these things. For such people who are already having knowledge to databases, wait for few days, because I have to come to your level after making the remaining number of students learning database for the first time to come to your level. So we will definitely answer every level of expertise before we get into the industry, but just let us see that we are fairly keeping good amount of time for the first time beginners. So here my table is declared with the columns to which I want to insert. Here I want to give the values, exactly the values in the order what I declared here. Breaking your SQL statement into multiple lines always gives you high level readability. Therefore, writing the SQL statement in one line is also okay. Keeping your SQL statement in multiple lines is just up to your fundamental practice. So once you just watch here, you give these values went into your table. Actually, where your table is containing 8 columns, but these values went exactly into those columns that have been defined here by the process. Now the question comes, so these values when they went into the columns, for the columns to which I did not give the values, what happened now? So that's a very important point for a beginner to remember. For the columns in which you did not give the values, you will find some space on your screen. But actually this is not a space. In Oracle or any database we call this as absence of data recognized as null. Are you catching the point now? So null is not a value. Null is not a value. It is a state. The state that shows that the data is absent by nature. On the screen, your null will be presented in the form of space. On the screen it looks like a space, but it's not space. Whenever you see some space on your screen within certain areas in your particular columns, you should understand that data is not available in that area. So try to catch my point carefully. When you're inserting the data by providing values only to specific columns, the columns for which you did not mention the data, Oracle will register a null state internally in the table. Are you catching me? So that's one point. Second, this is my second record or first record I inserted. Second record. But when I'm presenting, it is looking like what now? First record. Now don't get confused, okay? Your first record should be displayed first, second record should be displayed second is wrong. When you're querying the data, Oracle will give all the values existing in the table according to its priority of algorithm and order. It may not follow your expectation. In your machine, when you're querying, you may get Sampath first and Raj next. Therefore, try to understand one thing. Until we do not make an arrangement of the data in the query, Oracle returns the data with its internal order, not following to your order. Be very clear about that. Are you catching the point now? Therefore, don't get confused. Sir, my records are not coming in a particular order. There is no rule they should come. If you want the data to be in a particular order, you should give instruction to your query for that. Every point you have to catch up very carefully. Are you catching the point now? So, nulls are absence of information presented on the screen like a space. Now, here the question that comes is, here the student did not give the date of birth. Student should have a date of birth or may have a date of birth. Should have a date of birth. So, technically, if a date of birth is not given, according to business, it is what? Against to the rule. That's why we said this is a table. We never said this is an entity. If we design this table as an entity, if you don't give the date of birth, immediately your table should reject by saying that date of birth is compulsory. So your business needs which data compulsorily, your business does not need which data, your database will never know. You have to tell your database regarding that. Sir, how I can say this? That's what we are not completing our course today, when we have a great length of course to continue with. Every rule we will speak at the later stages. So, wherever nulls are coming into the picture, we have very special discussions with respect to their behavior. Leave that on my shoulders. Next thing, tomorrow the student came and he started submitting the date of birth. So what I should do now? No? So generally a beginner will say, I will insert the date of birth. It's wrong. The record is already inserted or not? Once the record is inserted, you don't insert any data that is missing, you update it. So missing data in the table will be updated at the later stage. A record is inserted only once. Once one record is inserted, on that record any changes can be only updated but not inserted. Therefore, insert always reflects what? A new record. An insert always reflects a new record. First time beginners, please remember these things. Are you catching the point now? Just make a note. Once one record is inserted, into the table, once one record is inserted into the table, there can be some missing values. Within the table specific to the records. These missing values are considered as nulls. Which actually reflect absence of information. Okay, next point. For any column that is missing the value, For any column that is missing the value, by requirement of the business, by requirement of the business, by requirement of the business, we can update such values by the situation of requirement, by the situation of requirement. Okay? Now how to write an update statement? You just don't worry, man. Okay? We'll pick up the statement by requirement very effectively, but just keep that point, because majority of the times I've seen beginners, especially beginners, will do one mistake saying that I will insert this value once again. According to your common sense, it could be correct, but according to technical factor, we misunderstand that statement from you. Are you catching the point now? So missing data is updated, new data is inserted. Now this record is permanent or not permanent? This record what I have inserted just now is permanent or not permanent? Not permanent. Where it is? Rollback segment area. Waiting for commit. So until I don't say commit, this data will be temporarily existing within your particular rollback segment area. That's how whenever you want to make your value to be permanent, you will just give that particular value by, you just give the transactional state by what? Commits. Now here certain questions will come now. If I am having 5 columns in declaration here, how many values I should give? 5. Anything less is not accepted, anything more is not accepted. Now what I mean to say is very simple, just catch now. See, every student should have a last name is not a rule. Now I am having one student who is coming into my particular college and I am asking him, give your first name, he gave me. And I am asking, give your last name. He said, sir, I don't have a last name. Then what I did is, I removed this last name and I started putting my data. My declarative columns are how many? 5. How many values I have? 4. So, once you declare a column for the sake of insertion, giving the value to that column is compulsory. Anything less, not enough values will come. That's what I said, Oracle errors are so wonderful. You once can understand that error, throughout your life, you don't need to worry about that error. You blindly correct the error. Say like, you got this error and you're asking one of your friend is saying that keep that last name. Then you're saying that I don't have last name. Then he says like, no, if you keep that last name, then this error will not come. You're asking him why that error is coming. He says like, you did not give the value. This is not the correct thing to discuss. The correct thing is, I specified my structure is 5 columns. I'm giving my values as 4 columns. That's a technical discussion. You know that once, you don't need to once again put yourself onto that. The same way you just watch here. Now I am having my last name as suppose say like something like this, but I am having only 5 values here, but I am giving my 6th value in this particular construct. Now technically the number of columns I declared are 5, but the number of values I am pushing is 6. This will give me too many values. So once you understood your too many values, when it is coming to you, what is your problem to understand now? At least once you did not concentrate, every time you will struggle for yourself. So follow this structure, what you declared there, it may not be the table. Anything less, anything more. Less is not enough, more is too many. Simple. Now here one more construct is there now. You declared 5 columns, no doubt. But one of your student is definitely saying that, sir, I don't have a last name. Then you cannot tell him, I declared a last name here, therefore you should have a last name now. You cannot force somebody to have which kind of name. So, when I am not giving the values, Oracle is keeping what? Null. When Oracle generates a null, we call that as implicit null insertion. When Oracle is generating the null, and it is inserting the null, we call it as implicit null generation. Certain times, we have to explicitly generate the nulls. So when we have to explicitly generate the nulls, we use the null keyword provided by Oracle. So null generation is of how many types? One expected question. Null generation is of two types. One is what? Implicit, where database generates the null because you are not declaring the column to the structure. Explicit null generation is you declared a column but you don't have a value. You should tell Oracle, you please generate null. Null is a keyword in Oracle. Now there are two kinds of representations of null as far as Oracle's architecture is concerned. One is you can use a null with null keyword. Another method is two single quotes without any space. There is not a double quote. When on the screen in your books it may look like double quote. Be careful. That is a two single quotes without space. We call that as empty quotes. Anytime you give empty quotes also represent the null only. So you can just watch here in this case, I declared student number, I declared first name and last name. But when I am giving my value, my student is saying that I don't have a last name. So I am pushing null there. That's how we can start supplementing the issues. Be careful. And in the same way, the student is saying that, sir, I don't have a date of birth. So till you don't get your date of birth, please try to manage that as a null. One of the student is fundamentally going with the construct and composition. Okay, whenever you are going with the process, you need it. Now in this case, you just watch. I am keeping empty quotes. I don't suggest this because it will be confusing you. Use always a null keyword, but that notation is also there. Don't forget that. Are you catching the point now? So watch here. So whichever column you think your data is not available, you can always present that data with what? Explicit nulls. Insert statement is not complicated, man. Situationally, can you write the insert statement? That situational insert statement, what you write is very important. Once that record has been inserted, it's permanent or not permanent? Not permanent. It's waiting in the rollback segment area. But you can query because you're the owner. You just watch here. This is my latest record, what I inserted. Yes or no? Now we watch. Don't expect first is first, second is second now. Okay? When data is coming from the table, Oracle follows its own order internally by its algorithm. Therefore, in your machine, you may get the same order or you may get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6. Why? Because your machine resource, your machine operations are absolutely depending on its statistics. Second thing is, either it is explicit null or implicit null, both will look in the same way like a space. So, I don't think insert is difficult, but for a first time beginner, catching the different situations to the insert are important for him. Are you catching the point now? Therefore, sir, I can insert a record. Good. But when a situation is given to you, can you build one insert statement? That is very important. So, how many tables you created is not important, man. How many records you have inserted is not important. How many situations you analyzed and you applied is very important. Before I take you to the next level of my statements, there are other two aspects I want to discuss in insert, and then I will make you get into the next levels. Even now it's not too late. If you have not yet started, please start. Why? Because at this level you watch, I'm going very slow. I'm not putting heavy load on your shoulders. But I'll never keep this speed always, okay? My speed definitely changes. Be careful. If you're not making a proper move, you can never complete your pending work suddenly. I'm always trying to say this. Better see that within that single day, your work is completed. Why? Because at a point of time, minimum 5 to 7 hours, you should practice to complete my one session for the next day. My 1 hour class definitely needs 6-7 hours of practice at some time. Get ready. So you cannot come and tell me, so many hours I cannot practice. Now finally you want to check into your lifestyle or not, you check, okay? What I have to give from my side, I'll give you. You take it in which way, I don't care about that. So tomorrow when we are speaking, we'll just try to understand certain things which can be done automatically through the process. Let us see next 24 hours what is waiting for us. Thank you very much.